Hello and welcome to Resource Review, the programme that gives you expert analysis and classroom trials for those essential resources. Today we're looking at resources for secondary science. Joining me to recommend today's resources is Adrian Fenton, Curriculum Support Manager for the Association for Science Education. Alongside Adrian, we have Roger Frost, Science Curriculum Advisor and Writer. Roger began his career as a biochemist before becoming a teacher. Also on the panel, we have Adrienne Jones, Freelance Education Consultant. Adrienne is a former teacher turned resources specialist. Well, thank you all very much for coming. Adrian, you are our resources specialist for today and you've recommended three very different resources for secondary science. We've got a book and CD-ROM, Kitchen Chemistry, something called Genes in a Bottle, which we'll talk about later, and a website. Now, is there a diverse range of resources available for secondary science?
I think there's a lot out there, and what we've tried to pick today represents some of the more extensive materials that might extend students at Key Stage 4, as well as some of the things that might excite students that are being distributed freely as well.
Yes. Now, your first resource is something very new, Kitchen Chemistry. Tell us a bit more about that.
Right, well, Kitchen Chemistry is produced by the Royal Society of Chemistry. And it's exciting in the fact that it's bringing in a contemporary idea. You know, kitchens are the theme at the moment. They seem to be so much on cooking, on programmes on television. And what they've done is to bring together some experiments that relate that to the chemistry that's being taught in schools. The publication comes with a CD-ROM and it's going to be sent out to schools freely, and there's a website that goes with that as well.
Well, before we discuss the resource any further with our panellists, let's see it in use. We gave a copy of it hot off the press to William Ellis School in Camden, where teacher Jenny Hart is using it with her Year 9 class.
Today we're going to be looking at jelly.
Today we were using Kitchen Chemistry. It's a book and an accompanying CD-ROM, and on there they have lots of video clips and PDF files and different worksheets, so things that you can photocopy. Now, we just picked out one particular practical, which was looking at the setting of jelly and the action of enzymes on that, and used that with our Year 9 class. I think the food angle, it's novel. We don't ever look at food in terms of chemistry, not unless we're doing sort of, digestion. It means that we can look at a chemical concept, which, to be honest, they are quite abstract often. So it does mean that they can think about something real. They can think of something they actually have experience with. So that's quite good, 'cause quite often the chemistry they only ever come across in the lab, or they think they only ever come across it in the lab. So it gives a real life application.
So the fresh pineapple, we can tell that's obviously really strong. Yeah.
I think the most outstanding bit about it are the video clips, because they're really short and snappy, so you can just stick them into a lesson, and they're quite relevant as well, and they're from a different angle as well. I don't think it comes up very often, sort of chemistry behind cooking, so it's nice to have a different angle to do it from. One downside I could see potentially with this is that obviously we have interactive whiteboards, so it's very easy for me to bring up the video clips and put them into my lesson. But if a school didn't, then I could see it being quite difficult to incorporate unless they have sort of digital projectors. But then, given that the clips are only a couple of minutes long, I can see people thinking, well, it's not worthwhile. It's quite good in terms of investigative skills. I think in terms of adapting it for the investigations, I think that's quite useful. And also it means that you're not doing the old tried and tested experiments, so it gives it something a bit more interesting to do.
Adrian, our teacher Jenny there seemed to enjoy this resource, but it strikes me that because it's really covering so much and suitable for so many different ages, perhaps it lacks focus.
You're right that it is quite a broad resource. The website has about 16 or 17 focal points for activities. Teachers should be prepared for the fact that they're going to have to pick out of this what will relate to their groups. Not all the experiments will be applicable to your particular age group.
What do you see as the key strengths of a resource like this?
Contemporary science is really important to get into the classrooms. It's being really emphasised through the new GCSEs that are being developed for 2006. So applications and interesting things that really get the students going. And in that sense, hopefully, this is what's going to be coming out from publications like this.
Roger, what's your view on something like this?
I think it's a fabulous resource here. What you're looking at is, as Adrian says, a very solid piece of much wanted curriculum today. It's got good credentials, Royal Society. The whole thing is clearly kosher. So what you then have to look at is how easily it would slot into a classroom, and that would be really the only thing that would be slowing me down. But essentially, fabulous stuff. We want to be seeing this happening.
So picking up on that point, Adrian, this notion again that perhaps it's not that well developed to just slot into teaching easily. It's a resource that's there, but some work needed to really get the best out of it.
The worksheets are adaptable, it would appear on the website, but it's a time factor with any teachers that if it doesn't grab them straight away, then perhaps they want to explain it their own way, which is a perfectly good sign of good science teaching.
I think it's interesting that that particular teacher, and I suspect a lot of teachers, go for the moving image as a means by which to deliver understanding and to actually demonstrate things that are difficult to do in any other way.
So perhaps that will be the main thing that will make them engage in this. They won't necessarily think, oh great, here's a nice activity in a worksheet, because that's been done before.
Yes.
But it's the fact that they're relating that to the video clip.
And does this cost schools anything?
The publication itself is going out freely, but there will be versions available that can then be purchased through the Royal Society of Chemistry if you wanted further copies.
Well, thanks very much for that useful discussion. Now let's move on to our second resource, and this is from Biorad, and it's called Genes in a Bottle. Adrian, explain this resource. We've certainly got a lot of interesting looking things on the table.
Right, well, this kit enables you to perform DNA extraction with your students. So the students can actually use these brushes on the inside of their cheeks and their mouths to remove some of the cheek cells, and then they follow the process through to extract DNA from all the cells that have been collected. These are then formed into a little necklace that could be worn, or a little vial if they wish to see, and they can see strands of all the DNA cells that are collected up from their cheek cells.
OK, thanks, Adrian. But before we go any further, let's see the kit in use. We visited John Slowey's class at John Cabot City Technology College.
The purpose of the lesson, the objective, was simply to remove DNA from their own cheek cells. The primary attraction of this sort of lesson is that they can actually see their own DNA, as opposed to it being a concept, which is normally the case. Inside this little glass vial, there is my DNA from my cheek cells. It started off simply by students using a small little brush and scraping some cheek cells from their mouth. And they go through a very long procedure, about 30 steps in total, which involves breaking open the cheek cells, removing the DNA from the nucleus, and basically precipitating the DNA so that it's visible. By the end of the lesson, they should have their own DNA visible, which is just white strands of DNA, and they can, if they want, put this within a vial and actually make a necklace and capture their essence. The kit contains absolutely everything you need: a brush to remove cheek cells, detergents and enzymes for this procedure to work. The only thing you do need that's not in the kit would be things like ethanol and water baths, but otherwise it's complete. It probably needs a demonstration by the teacher initially, but otherwise it's very student-centred, and students can just follow a procedure and complete this task. I like the resource. My only reservation is the length of time it would take to set up. It took us a good, say, 1 hour with 2 technicians supporting us to set that lesson up. Just for the value and the enjoyment they get from it, and from the fact that they can see DNA, I think it's a worthwhile practical. I would be tempted certainly to do it again with year 10 and year 11, and even A level.
Well, I really like the look of this one, but as a teacher, does the kit support them?
Well, the kit itself comes with a booklet that explains the procedures that they'll have to go through. In that sense, there are step-by-step instructions. I would suggest, though, this isn't going to be for every teacher at Key Stage 4 who's interested in another area of science. It's going to be for certain teachers who want to switch on certain groups of students.
Adrienne, how well do you think this kit performs in terms of really highlighting and bringing to life this rather abstract concept?
It's an opportunity to replicate something that actually goes on in laboratories. You know, they will have all heard something about genetics and DNA structures, but to actually have the experience of being scientists, working in an environment that may not necessarily be easy to replicate, this kit would seem to offer that opportunity.
Roger, you're a curriculum advisor. How well does this kit and its aims fit into the curriculum?
I think its first purpose is to inspire children, as Adrienne said, also to pick up on the procedures and understand the procedures that biochemists actually go through.
If you knew what you were doing, is this the kind of thing you could tackle without buying the kit?
I think if you knew what you were doing, there would be ways to collect together the materials and perhaps move towards it yourself. But obviously that's not for all teachers. We're looking at some that know what they're doing.
Adrienne, I know something that some teachers might be concerned about are firstly health and safety issues related to this kit, as well as the legality issues. What would you say to that?
Regarding using cheek cells, it is perfectly fine for schools to use that as long as it is confirmed by their ILEA that it is advisable. It used to be banned in the 90s, but since 1996 it has been okay to use that. So in that sense, schools shouldn't be put off using it. If they are unsure at all, then they should check with their own local education authorities regarding the legality of it.
Well, thanks very much. Now let's move on to our third resource for secondary science. Adrienne, this is a website, Science Live, an online guide to science presenters. Now, can you tell me how it works?
Effectively, this was set up by Planet Science and the British Association for the Advancement of Science with support from other organisations. And it's a chance for people to see presenters and science communicators who are able to come into schools to put on shows, presentations, or to make science a little bit live and interactive.
Is it a free resource?
It's a free resource to access, and we quite often get inquiries from schools that might have a science week or a special event in the school, and they're thinking, well, where can we go? And in a sense, this database provides a good starting point for that sort of information.
But the presenters themselves may not necessarily be free.
That's right. There's a range on the site. Some are linked with organisations that might offer their services free. Some are science communicators who do this for a living and therefore have to have a charge associated with it.
Well, thank you all very, very much. Just to summarise then, we've been looking at 3 resources for secondary science. The first was kitchen chemistry, new from the Royal Society of Chemistry. Genes in a Bottle, a kit used to sample DNA from Biorad. And Science Live, an online database of science presenters. For more information about all of the resources that we've discussed on today's programme and to post your own comments about resources for secondary science, you can go to our website. That's teachers.tv/resource review. Or if you want to, you can email us, resourcereview@teachers.tv. Many thanks to our panellists for today, to Adrienne, to Roger and to Adrienne. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Resource Review. Bye-bye.